Hi, my name is John Clese and welcome to The Unexpected Guest. I'm coming to you high above the shores of Lake Michigan from my apartment on Lakeshore Drive in the great city of Chicago. And today we are making, we're going to do a salmon under the broiler. And you know, the salmon actually has a lot of calories in it, believe it or not. So, well, I'm sure most of you do know that. So I wasn't able to actually put a carb with it, but I thought we got to spice up the vegetable side. So we're actually going to make a spinach souffle. It's not as easy as the ones I've done in the past, but it's pretty easy to do. I couldn't find my recipe. So I'm actually going to do one out of Cooking Light, which is a regular magazine, and I've got the best of Cooking Light, and I'm going to make the spinach out of that. I cut out a couple of things to cut down the calories. So for those of you that are new to The Unexpected Guest, you know that what we're trying to do is to watch our calories, cut it down. I get what it is to struggle with your weight. I've lost 50 pounds and I struggle all the time to make sure that I keep it off. So I like to cook, and I am a firm believer that the best way to also help you keep the weight off is to really still experience the joy of making food. You know, if you just throw something in the microwave for 5 minutes and eat it in 2, you're right, you're going to be completely unsatisfied. So I really think you need to take the time to prepare, to smell, to set it up, make it look good, and then eat it. So let's get started. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set my oven to 375, and we're actually I had already started that. We're going to cook the spinach in these ramekins, and the recipe called to do it into a baking dish, which of course you could if you wanted to, but I'm going to use these guys. These are 1 cup ramekins, and you can get smaller ones if you want to. So I've got 4 of these. Now the other thing I'm going to do is I might do it. Of course, I want to make it complicated for myself, but I actually have this great this cast iron muffin skillet that I got at a garage sale ages and ages ago. So what I'm actually going to do though is I'm going to put this beautiful cookie sheet. I'm actually going to put these on the cookie sheet and warm them up in the oven. I'm not going to put my ramekins on there, but when the ramekins go on top, at least it'll be nice and hot. So this goes in the bottom 2/3 of the oven, and I am going to have to pull those out, so hopefully I won't burn myself. So I made these early this morning because it was a new recipe, but I wanted to test it out for you. But I'm only going to use 2 ramekins, and I'll put these others away. And I did buy the spray for those of you that were all upset about me using all the olive oil. And yes, I do still spray it all over my kitchen. So I'm actually going to just spray it into this bowl. This stuff is, I don't know. It is worth it. It is easy, obviously, but of course, and it's everywhere. All right, sorry. My bowls are prepared. All right. So that is heated up to 375. Now the first thing the recipe called for was actually to put breadcrumbs in the bottom. I left them out. They were 30 calories. I don't think you really needed it, so I'm not going to do it. But I do need to saute a little bit of garlic. So I've got my pan. I'm going to put the pan on medium, and I'm going to put some olive oil on it. Yes, I like the spray, but I'm not going to spray everything. So I need a little sip of my coffee. Oh, it's been quite a day. All right, where's my garlic? Here's my garlic. Oh, and I should show you actually before I get started. Here's the salmon. So here's the salmon that we're going to use. This is actually 6 ounces of salmon raw. My recipe, I have the calories calculated at 4 ounces cooked. Now the guy where I bought the fish said that the salmon, unlike cod, does not lose that much moisture. So he said there's actually going to be not that much shrinkage, but we will see. This is 6 ounces. I weighed it earlier, so let's just see what it is when it comes into the oven. I'm going to set this aside. Important, you should leave your fish out for a good 40 minutes or so. You want it to come to room temperature before it ever goes into the oven. That will help it cook. And I used to do this with a nice honey mustard sauce, but I wanted to cut the calories out of that one too. So we're going to end up with soy ginger. But I'm going to put this off to the side for now. Not going to deal with that. Here's the spinach. Actually, I'm just going to be using these frozen 10-ounce packages of spinach. They get at the grocery store. You can certainly use fresh spinach if you want to, but I'm going to use the frozen one, and I left this out, and this one's all actually pretty thawed, and I'm only going to use one of these. But for now, let's get started with the garlic. So I'm just going to take the recipe. Now, when I follow recipes, I'm always doing something different. I can't follow recipes that well. So it said, what did it say? 2 garlic cloves. So I think this morning I ended up doing 3. These are big guys. So you just want to peel this off. Sometimes they're really soft, and the garlic isn't that, but that's actually good. All right. So I've got my garlic, and of course I have put it down here. Don't worry, I didn't put it on the floor. So again, those of you that are new to cooking, this is just a little bit of the paper on the garlic. Just take your knife and smash it down, or crush it. And it breaks that open, and then you get these nice little garlic pieces. All right, and that's, you know what, that's not too much. I like garlic, I'm Italian, so I'm gonna use the garlic. So, again, I got my nice little garlic press. I'm gonna get a little bowl. Because I love to use every possible dish in the house. I don't know why, I just do. And this is this great garlic press. It's one of the good grips, which I love. So put that in there. Just gonna squeeze this out. And the nice one about this is supposedly you're able to stick this in the garlic press with the paper on it, and it holds the paper, but I don't do that because I don't follow instructions very well. I never have. I used to get U's in behavior. I don't know, those of you that are older used to get, you didn't get A, B's, and C's, you got VG for very good and stuff like that. But I used to get U's. So anyway, because I like to take it around and I just like to scrape that out. So I like to use that. Now, we're just gonna flavor. This recipe actually says to cook the garlic for 20 seconds. So I got my oil. Again, you can see it's a little bit liquid, and you know what? I'm gonna actually dump some of that out. I've coated the pan. I don't actually need this extra olive oil. So I'm dumping it in the sink. And of course, try to remember to wipe the edge so it doesn't catch on fire. And then I'm just gonna, and we all know we had a fire last time. So I can hear that on there. And we're just going to really flavor the oil. In fact, you could probably do this off heat. So that's all we're going to do is we're flavoring the oil. And you can smell it when it starts to cook. Not too hot because this will start to caramelize. So I'm going to put this back on the stove. I'm going to turn it down. I have one of the stoves that has numbers 1 to 9, so I'm putting that on a 1. All right, now we're going to do the spinach. Let me get rid of this mess here. We lost the cleanup crew with the budget cut, so I had to do it myself. How's it going, Rosie? I didn't even say a big shout out to Rosie. Rosie has joined our show. Well, a picture, because once again, Rosie just did not answer my call to come on, so we put a big old picture of Rosie there, and we love that picture. She's very excited to eat her salmon and her spinach. She looks like a girl that eats some spinach. All right, here is my bowl for the spinach. Now we have to drain the spinach out, get some of the moisture out. Don't you love this? This is one of these old Star colanders. They used to be vintage, and now actually they've reproduced them again. You can find them everywhere, so you don't need to steal them from your mother. And I did not steal that from my mother. All right, so this is again 10 ounces of chopped spinach. I'm going to open up, try not to cut myself. Now, I will say this, it's going to be interesting, is since this was defrosted in the bowl, I don't know actually how much moisture is actually left in this because I had a lot of moisture come out when I was defrosting it. And when I made this, when I was testing this recipe, I actually ended up putting the moisture back because I made spinach souffles before and I can't stand it when they're really dry inside. So I will show you on these recipes where I've cut it out. I'm going to get myself a spoon. Whoops. Now I can smell that garlic. Again, see that? I shouldn't cook that anymore. If you can get in there, it's starting to get a little bit, I'll show you, starting to get a little bit crusty, right? So that's about, you don't want to toast that anymore. I mean, it's not going to kill anything, but you don't want to do it anymore. So I'm actually going to take this off heat. So that's off heat. I've got my burner still on, but I'm not putting it back on the burner. So here's the spinach. Again, I had put, this one's frozen. Because I drained it in here, I had a lot of moisture, so I'm actually squeezing it out. Well, there's some. But like I said this morning, I ended up putting it all back in. So I press this down, and it's interesting with this recipe because you use a cup of 1% milk that you mix in with the spinach. So you actually end up putting all the moisture back in. Now, this recipe also called for fresh spinach, which I did not use. You know what? I think this is fine to use frozen. It's easier. And I'm actually going to get my hands in here and squeeze it, even if I put it all back. So, so there, as you can see, that there's a lot of moisture in spinach. And of course, this is also the fact that it's been frozen. But again, I put it all back, so whatever. In fact, the recipe calls for heating this up because you're wilting the fresh spinach, so I even wonder if you have to heat up the spinach, but I'm going to do that just because I am. Because it's my show and it's my spinach souffle and that's what I want to do. Plus, it's nice to have all the ingredients the same temperature, but they will be cooled down with the milk. All right, so that's how much comes out of that. I'm not going to throw that away because I actually might use that again. So, put that down here. Wipe my hands. Now the spinach just goes right into the garlic. And actually what is nice about putting the spinach in with the garlic is you get to flavor up the spinach with a little bit of garlic too. So I'm going to put this back on the stove. I've got this on about a 4 on my stove, so about a medium high, and I am actually going to put some of this moisture back in. Just a little bit in the stove. I don't know, that's probably 1/3 of a cup that I put back in. All right, we're just going to let that warm through. Not going to cook it too much because the garlic has already been toasted. We're going to leave that there, and I'm going to get started with the eggs. Actually, I need to... That was my glass bowl 4. Let's see. All right, I've got so many bowls over here. I'm not using this ramekin, so I'm actually going to get rid of the rest of this juice. Put this here. And let's see what else it says it does. All right, so we've got the garlic in the back, stir it occasionally, blah, 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 cook to the spinach. Place the spinach, paper towels. I'm not going to do that. And then the milk and the cornstarch. So here's the other thing. We've got 1 cup of skim milk, 1% milk, that's actually going to go into this bowl. And 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, which I never really cook with, but it's interesting that this recipe has it. And I'm just going to mix that around so that it all dissolves. And cornstarch isn't like flour. It's actually, it dissolves quickly, so you don't really have to worry about too many lumps. Now, I hear my spinach, so I'm going back. I can hear it sizzling. And I'm actually going to put more moisture in. I'm putting more moisture back. So, and I'm actually going to salt my spinach. Now you can salt this later, but I'm actually going to salt and pepper while it's on the stove. So I just got a pinch of kosher salt and pepper. And that's all. I mean, that spinach, just you can see, just really sucks up all of the moisture. There's just not much there. Well, there's a little bit. All right, so we have that. That's not cold anymore. Stick my finger in. And it wasn't because I had actually left it out, like I said, and had defrosted it. All right. Oops. Get every little bit. When you're counting calories, don't let anything go to waste. All right, so I got my spinach there. That's done. I'm going to turn off the stove. Those of you that saw the last couple of shows know that we had a fire during the pizza episode, so I'm trying really hard not to set my high-rise on fire here in Chicago. All right, so again, what do I got in here? I got cornstarch. Following recipes, I tell you, difficult. All right, I got cornstarch, I got my milk, and this says to add cheese, blah, blah, blah. Place spinach, mixture, milk, and cornstarch in a blender. Okay, so here's the other place where I differ. In this recipe, they want you to blend all this in a blender. Well, we already have to whip egg whites, and you know what? I did not feel like having the blender dirty, the beaters dirty, your KitchenAid dirty, whatever. So I don't mind my spinach being a little bit chunky. And those of you that have sort of grown up with those spinach souffles, you know, like the Stouffer ones, they're very creamy and really, you know, they're actually pretty good. I'm not going to do that. You could do that, but we're not going to do that today. I'm going to try that another time, though. So, again, this, if I was following the recipe correctly, would actually be in a blender. But it's not going to be. And it actually turns out fine. Now, this is soupy. But I'm not going to worry yet. I think it looked like this when I made it the last time. We shall see. All right, so from there, I'm going to do, I already did a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, a little more pepper. And some nutmeg. Get fresh nutmeg. Don't use your old nutmeg. These are little nuts.